mealtime and welcome to a rather nice day here in the fatherland where I am in a car. And what car exactly that is I'm getting to in a second, but first I've been thinking. So I don't own a car, and whenever I need one I just rent one. And I thought, why don't I use this opportunity to kind of have a closer look at the car that I'm currently using and then give you my thoughts on it, make a short video about it. But I don't want to kind of review the same type of car every time. There are about 40 to 50 categories of cars to choose from with the car rental company that I use. And I thought I let an RNG decide which category I'm going to rent next. And then I'm going to review that car. So it's some kind of random car testing. But since even if you know the category, you don't know the exact car, it's some kind of a double random car testing thingy. Yeah. So the first category that was chosen by RNG, this is a mid-size SUV. And the car that I'm currently in is the BMW 840d xDrive. Oh, wait a minute, that ain't no SUV. Yeah, right, that's where the double random thing kicks in. So I got a call from the guy from the car rental company and he said that they do not have an SUV available. So he basically gave me the choice between a luxury saloon and, yes, the 8 Series. But it doesn't matter, I simply crossed this category off the list and put the SUV back on. So yeah, I am in the BMW 8 Series. Let's see what that's like. I'm gonna use this car the next couple of days. Gonna have a closer look at it. There's a lot to unpack here because I think this car is definitely worth talking about, especially with that engine. But first, some specs, whatever. I just put them on the screen somewhere. And yes, I'm currently on my way to a rather twisty road to check out its handling capabilities. Alrighty, so the only road in a radius of 5,000 light years that's a little bit twisty. And let's put this thing into sport and then let's see. Engine is good as well. Wow, wow, impressive, very impressive. Wow, cool. Yes, it's pretty impressive for such a big fat car. Brakes good. Chassis okay. Still dives pretty deep, but could be a bit stiffer, but it's pretty impressive. Seat could offer a little bit more support, so want to use it as a sports car, definitely go for the maximum M seats available. Unfortunately, no oil temperature gauge. I don't understand that. Steering is a little bit numb. Could be better. Be more. Brakes are good though. It's been a while since I've been in a BMW with really maximum amount of confidence in the brakes. The gear shifts are amazing. But that was good. Driving dynamics. So welcome to the Autobahn. So let's do our speed, acceleration, whatever test. But first, despite the fact that this car is supposed to be primarily a sports car, it is still okay, good at being a GT car, especially with that engine. That engine is just, there's torque and power everywhere. That's really the big contrast if you compare it to the 4-cylinder engine in the 430. With that engine in the 4-cylinder, the gearbox was constantly searching for a little bit of range where there's some power, and then it changed gear every other second, so it was permanently like. But this is absolutely not. There's power everywhere, and yeah, I have to say the seats in the Mercedes were more comfortable. I also think that the Mercedes was a little bit quieter, especially at mid and higher speeds. This has the same 19-inch run flat winter tires, so you can compare that pretty much directly. I have to see the footage later, but it doesn't feel as fast as the engine in the Mercedes. This has less power, so it shouldn't be, but the figures say that this is faster, but it doesn't feel like it. Let's get this up to speed. I'm going to put out the light here. Again, doesn't feel as fast as the E-Class, the E450. But there's absolutely no complaining in the speed that it can achieve or the acceleration that it has. Surely pretty good. Now we are at 230 kph. Noise level, again, it's a tad louder than the E-Class. So yeah, I don't know if you can understand me. Okay, now it's back to 120. High speed stability is very good. It's not as good as in the E-Class, and that's mainly because of the suspension. This one in the 8 Series is harder, so every little bump that you cross over kind of makes the car jiggle immediately, whereas the suspension in the E-Class was more on the softer side and absorbed the bumps. The brakes, however, are very good. We need them now. Again, you cannot take it out to the max speed because the tires, just as in the Mercedes, limit the car, and we are now have to go slow again. Yeah. So set this to 120 and continue it being a nice cruiser. Alrighty. So yeah, basically that's what I wanted to say about its Autobahn capabilities. Pretty good. So welcome to the interior of the 8 Series. Now I'm not going to give you a detailed interior presentation because that's what we have Mr. Gleitzman for. I'm just gonna talk about my general impressions of the car, of the interior, and then gonna talk about if anything stands out to me in a good or bad way. So let's start with the general impression. It's more like being in a sports car than being in a luxury coupe. The roofline is very low. The space that you have between the center console and the door is very narrow. You're very much tucked in. The center console is very close to me. The steering wheel is very close to me. Everything is very, again, narrow, close, like in a sports car, not in a luxury coupe. Continuing with the good stuff. So I like a lot of the materials that they use. For instance, this metal decor here, I think it's the best decor available. Every other decor is more or less a glossy black plastic. I like that a lot of the surfaces, or almost every surface, is padded with leather. I like these art deco lighting here. Another thing that's very good is the iDrive system. It's very quick, it's very responsive, it's very intuitive. I absolutely like it, and I think it's the best system on the market. I like the interior lighting, the ambient lighting. Now let's get into the stuff that I don't like. So where should I begin? Some of the materials chosen for this interior are questionable at best. For instance, on the steering wheel, these buttons, they are some kind of rubber or plastic, I don't know. In the 7 Series, they are metal. These air vents are plastic, and these air vents are just things here. I know these things from the 3 Series and 5 Series and 1 Series, so ask any long-time BMW owner, they will tell you these have a tendency to come off. The window and mirror control buttons are straight out of the 3 Series. These are plastic. This cover here is plastic. This is leather padded, but listen what's underneath it. And below it is also plastic. Doors, these upper parts are padded and leather and nice, but these lower parts here also plastic. I say for a 100 grand car, they could have chosen better materials in the interior. I don't like the fact that you cannot have a sunshine roof. It's very dark and cramped in here, and a sunshine roof would have improved the situation. The seats, once again, although they are very good for a sports car, they are not as good for long distances. The seats in Mercedes E-Class were way more comfortable, and comfort seats from BMW are way more comfortable as well. But you cannot have them in here. Considering that this is targeted as a sports car, this is supposed to be a sports car, that's okay. What's definitely not okay is the rear seats. They are absolutely laughable. Like, this seat is now adjusted to my driving position, and the rear legroom is this. And so they are completely pointless. I don't know why they put it in there in the first place. That's the stuff that I don't like. So that's the interior. It's an okay place to be, very mixed bag. So 1 week with the 8 Series, what have we learned? Now, there's a lot of really good things, but there are also some, I wouldn't say bad things because that would be preposterous, but some not so good things. Now let's start with the really good things. One of the most impressive things about the car is the handling. Like, I was really surprised on how well it turns in, how high cornering speeds it can achieve, and most of all how good the brakes are. But the best thing about this car is definitely the looks. It's a very sleek looking design. It's very low, it's very wide. This has very clear lines. It's a very clear design. It looks like it's carved out of one piece of material. The headlights are very aggressive. The entire front is very pointy. There's a German word called roll prestige. And it's like, how quick do people leave the left lane in order to make room for you to pass? And with this thing, it's like even hundreds of yards away, they already leave the left lane. So I don't want to overvalue the looks, but I think in a car of this category, it's really, really important. So definitely mission accomplished on that. It's when you go beyond the styling and the handling where there are some issues. So this thing is a GT car. So that stands for Gran Turismo, which means it's a long distance cruiser. So let's see what this thing has for a long journey. It's relatively quiet, it's relatively comfortable, the seats are okay. The engine is definitely a GT engine. But for a GT car, the suspension is a little bit too stiff, even in comfort mode. For a GT car, I would like to have the BMW comfort seats in here. But a GT car does also mean that if you feel like it, you can just interrupt your journey, just look for a twisty road wherever you are, and then just have some fun. And yes, this car can do this as well. In fact, it can do that better than the comfort part and the GT part. But if the focus was on sport, then why the long wheelbase? Why is it 5 meters long? Why is it nearly 2 ton heavy? And then there's the fact that I'm sitting in a car now with a diesel engine. Now this engine is really good for a long distance cruiser. It's relaxed, it's effortless, it's really economical apparently. But for a sports car, this is just a little bit too lazy. I mean, it's not bad, it gets you up to speed and everything, but in a sports car, you want to have a petrol engine. Now, these are some minor complaints really, but they become kind of amplified if you consider my major complaint, and that is the price. Now this car, as it is here with the 3-liter diesel engine, has a base price of 100,000 euros. Rest assured you can easily get to 130 if you want with the carbon package, the Bowers Wilkins sound system and so on. Now I looked around at the competition of this, and a 2+2 classical GT would be the Lexus LC500. Now with the touring package, that is 105 grand. And the Lexus LC500 does not come with a 3-liter 300 horsepower diesel engine. It comes with a 5-liter naturally aspirated 500 horsepower V8, one of the last available here in Europe. If it's a pure luxury car that you want, a pure luxury coupe that you want, you can go for the S-Class coupe. Prices are about the same as this. So if you're more interested in the sporty thing about a GT car, or generally more interested in a sports car, starting at about 95 grand is the Porsche GT4. Now that's a hardcore mid-engine driver-focused piece with a manual gearbox that weighs less than 1500 kilograms. So also available for 100 grand is the Nissan GT-R. And if you want your 8 Series to keep up with the performance of a Nissan GT-R, you have to go to what my engine recommendation for this thing would be, the M8. Now the problem with the M8 is that it starts out at 170 grand. Spec it up, put in some extras, you end up at 185 to 190 grand. And now you're very close to a territory that's occupied by Aston Martins, Ferraris, Lamborghinis. Even Porsche GT3 RS starts out at 195 grand, so it's not that far away. So, but the worst competition for this car, I think, comes from high-performance executive saloons, such as the E63 AMG or the M5. Now these cars start at around 110 to 120 grand. You're getting like 600 plus horsepower, you're getting 5 proper seats, you're getting more comfort, and except for the M8, these cars are also faster. So even if you take the 850, the 850 cannot keep up in performance with an M5 or an E63 AMG, but it's more expensive. If this thing was a 6 Series, and it would be like 5 to 10% more expensive than a 5 Series, it would be an absolute no-brainer. But this is an 8 Series, and it starts like with 100 grand. And I cannot help but think that what BMW did here is they made a new 6 Series and they charge the money of a 7 Series or of an 8 Series for it because it looks so good and they know people will pay the price. It feels a little bit like a rip-off, and that would put me off. I would personally walk past it and go to the M5, go to an E63 AMG. I get more practicality, I get more power, but this thing is definitely better on the looks department. It is one of the most beautiful cars in sale today, in my opinion. And I can understand everyone who says like, the executive saloon, I want that thing.